the faithful have really come out for that.
Very symbolically also, we know that a group of mostly poor people who are assisted by charities will be at St. Mary Major to welcome him to his final resting place. The Pope of the Peripheries, the Pope of the people, is very aptly receiving his last embrace from those who he loved the most, the smallest, the weakest, the last in society.
We see the whole entourage there from high above. Now they've just exited Vatican City. They're on the avenue here that leads to a tunnel that then crosses over the Tiber River and will take them into the historic center. People lining the streets there, and we've had plenty of reports of people lining the streets across the city since this morning. So while many were crowded into St. Peter's Square, which had at least around 50,000 until they had to kind of close it off due to the numbers, and then so many hundreds of 150,000 others in the avenues surrounding the area. We have many people as well, in addition, lining the streets or the sidewalks to pay their final respects to Pope Francis and the entourage here, moving at a pace that gives people time to take in the moment as it happens.
And these aerial images that were being shown are they're really quite impressive. They're beautiful. You can see the car carrying the Pope, and then above what I believe to be the Vatican Gardens, the Pope's Gardens, this beautiful green area, which I'm sure he must have wandered through so often. And it's beautiful to have them both together as he makes his way to St. Mary Major. There really are a lot of people out there. You can hear the applause as he makes his way down.
You were saying, Francesca, the Vatican Gardens, which he probably walked. I thought it very beautiful that in the Vrogito, the last act, which they placed in his coffin, there was a summary of his life and of who he was and of his pontificate. And in particular, he was described as a simple and popular pastor in his archdiocese in Argentina, who traveled far and wide by metro and by bus, living in a flat, preparing his own food because he felt like a normal person.
And I think he made everyone he met feel like he was a normal person, and that they were meeting a normal person. And the Pope of the Peripheries, that's really what he was. And especially talking about his traveling, and he really traveled the world. His penultimate trip, which Linda, you were on, and he really went to the other side, the forgotten side of the world.
Absolutely. I must say I've had the privilege to be on 2 faraway trips. One was the one you're just mentioning that took us to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, and Singapore, but even the year before to Mongolia to visit the smallest Catholic flock in the world, 1,500 Catholics of the entire Mongolian population. So yes, he traveled into the peripheries of the city, going to visit prisoners, going to visit elderly people, poor people, always welcoming refugees, but he'd also travel across the world to the remotest and furthest away places from the Vatican, obviously, that is. And people always came out in floods to welcome him. I'll never forget landing in Timor-Leste, which is a tiny and new country, and the half of the entire population, 750,000 people, came to the Mass. The floods of people just there to welcome him. Very moving.
And they're countries that are so far off the grid, we barely even hear of them. And another gesture that was one of his final gestures was he visited the prison. He went to Regina Coeli, I believe, which is a prison in the Trastevere area of Rome, not too far from the Vatican. And it's a symbolic gesture that he does every year at Easter. And of course, with him having been unwell, we weren't sure whether he would have done, and the fact that he did meant so much to prisoners worldwide, but all marginalized people. And I think the Pope himself said, you know, it could have been me, it could have been anyone in your position, and that awareness that he had and that he transmitted to the people who were suffering the most, I think, is one of the greatest legacies that,
as you've mentioned, the around 40 of them will be there. There might be more or less, but some of them have Marta, and meet with them just to.
He's passing here in front of some very
more of here, and
yes, it's remarkable. Also, it's the first papal funeral, can we say, with this. Advanced technology, digital technology that is really giving
of what's happening, and it gives you a sense of context in a way that's, and you can see all the crowds of people on either side of the street. As they wave there. And again, it's particularly poignant and touches migrants and refugees. And
I must say, in these days in which tributes have been pouring in, again,
Marta, and meet with them just to.
He's passing here in front of some very
more of here, and
yes, it's remarkable. Hopefully that voice will be will continue to resonate.
Well, right until the very end, his final appearance on Easter Sunday, he dedicated his on Easter Sunday. He dedicated his words, his Urbi et Orbi blessing, which someone else read for him, but he dedicated it to the people suffering war, and he is.
They wave there, and again, it's particularly poignant and touches migrants and refugees, and
I must say, in these days in which tributes have been pouring in, again and again, I've been hearing he was a voice for those who had no voice. So hopefully that voice will be will continue to resonate.
Well, right.
So often for him at the general audience, which was always an occasion for him to reiterate this appeal. And Francisca, you wrote that lovely farewell that we published on the web about the Pope of Peace, which particularly, I think, resonated with you.
I have to say that one of a voice for the people in countries where,
I think, resonated with you.
I have to say that one of the things I learnt reading at Pope Francis's audience is that his style of being closer to the people resonated in every aspect of his pontificate. So it was very clear when up until a few years ago, the readers at the general audiences were all Monsignori, religious consecrated men who work within the Vatican walls. And Pope Francis changed that. And the readers became people like me. I'm a woman, I'm not a religious, not a consecrated woman, and ages. All kinds of different accents, and it really represents the people in the square audiences when other people are reading. It really builds that bridge. I mean, it's been a real honor reading for him. Audiences
include people in the church. You know, he's been
the readers at the general audiences were all monsignori, religious.
Denominations. He has want to continue, which
we right in the center of the eternal city of Rome, of historic. Again, they preferred that people not follow behind. The vehicles for safety reasons, above all. Just wanted to mention, you were mentioning the Pope appeals for peace. That drew a lot of applause.
It really represents the people in the square audiences when other people are reading. It really builds that bridge. I mean, it's been
that brought rounds of applause from the crowds in the square.
The Pope's coffin. And a real honor reading for him at audiences.
Include people in the church. You know, he's been denominations. He has want to continue.
And I can't remember them all, but I know that one of them was Ukraine, another one was Palestine, Myanmar was mentioned, and it's true, these are all countries that which
literally right in the center of the eternal city of Rome, of historic. Again, they preferred that people not follow behind the vehicles for safety reasons, above all. Just wanted to mention, you were mentioning the Pope appeals for peace. That a lot of applause. People to do their utmost to bring peace in our world.
Count
the altar to the fallen soldier.
And there are people all
places in Rome. It's the road that runs through.
Hence all the construction equipment there.
But can I say Rome is becoming
all the construction equipment there.
But can I say Rome is becoming more and more beautiful.
It is present here in a way in greeting and blessing the crowds, I'm sure.
It's so lovely also that he wants to be, that he obviously feels Roman. He's Argentine, but he's Roman. He's the Bishop of Rome. He's said it so many times. And his devotion to the Salus Populi Romani is so significant as well.
Even his parish visits that he would make on occasion, he would go to the most remote parishes, the ones really on the outskirts of the city, The idea being to reach out to those who may have the least chance of seeing him or expecting to see him. That was his style.
And he'd go without a prepared text to engage in real conversation. I was speaking just yesterday or the day before yesterday to the international director of JRS, the Jesuit Refugee Service. And he was saying he'd pop into the Jesuit house in Rome and sit down and chat with them, and even about, like events that were coming up that had to be scheduled or had to be prepared. But he said he'd invariably come open to dialogue, open to listening to what others had to say. In fact, Brother Michael Scherf said he wanted to hear what other people had to say.
Seeing these stunning images as he heads towards the Colosseum. We've just gone through the Roman Forum there. And the crowds are thick on either side there. We're going to have some nice images of the Rome's takes place there at the Colosseum in a very symbolic and suggestive way, in remembering Good Friday and those who've suffered and died.
He actually wrote the meditations himself this year. Very often they are written by groups of people, like symbolically, like by widows or war veterans, or bring global justice to every person, every human being in the world, as we are called to recognize the inherent dignity of all.
Well, Pope Francis has often spoken of promoting an economy of peace and an economy of fratellanza, which is the word that inspires Fratelli Tutti. It means brotherhood.
Fraternity.
Fraternity. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. An economy of fraternity, and it is bringing together a lot of the things that we've spoken about. It's bringing together the poor and the marginalized and the people suffering on the other side of the world, in our case, us being here in the Vatican, who are suffering
dignity of all.
Well, Pope Francis has often spoken of promoting an economy of peace and an economy of fratellanza, which is the word that inspires Fratelli Tutti. It means brotherhood. Fraternity. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. An economy of fraternity, and it is bringing together a lot of the things that we've spoken about. It's bringing together the poor and the marginalized and the people suffering on the other side of the world, in our case, us being here in the Vatican, who are suffering war, and often they're countries who are suffering economically, and it's calling to action and to responsibility the countries that can help.
Exactly. Denouncing the great divide that there is between
Lateran and Santa Maria Maggiore, St. Mary Major. He'll be coming up on that Via Merulana there. And here, so we're probably about 2/3 of the way there, I would say. And again, Pope Francis wished to be buried at the Basilica of St. Mary Major. And he wished to be buried next to the Salus Populi Romani icon of Mary, who is, people go to pray, and Pope Francis throughout his pontificate, and in particular this icon that in the Basilica, and they go to pay homage to that to that icon, that they see only a simple space where we'll be seeing shortly. Where
in the Vatican grottos, but it's actually
I have to say it's a very touching moment. It's almost difficult to know what to say.
I think most people can see and watch, but many people are also perhaps following on radio. Yes, it is very solemn, it's very sad.
At the same time, it's a celebration of his life and ministry, and it's particularly poignant in this Jubilee of Hope as well that he inaugurated, that he opened. And so I think, I would imagine that would be and of course it is the key theme as well that we celebrate in a very special way at Easter at this time, a time of hope, of birth, new life, life in a new and transformed way. And so I think all today has been a wonderful tribute to Pope Francis and his ministry. And there we see the icon Salus Populi Romani. It's a panel made of cedar wood. It's about 117 by 79 centimeters, more or less. It's quite large when you bring it down to the ground. It's mounted in the chapel there higher up, and it depicts a half figure of Our Lady with the child Jesus in her arms. And the icon again is especially dear to the Roman people and highly linked to the identity of Rome and the popes. And as we saw with Pope Francis, he had that special dedication to Our Lady in this icon of Rome.
He visited the Basilica just recently during his convalescence at Casa Santa Marta after he was discharged from the hospital on the 23rd of March. He actually, on his way back from the hospital, he stopped to pay tribute to Our Lady.
We see those arriving, some of the cardinals and prelates who are arriving here for this moment before the coffin is taken into the basilica for burial. This moment of that will take place here outside in front of the basilica.
The Cardinal Camerlengo, Kevin Farrell, will again preside inside the basilica at the final rite of interment, together obviously with other cardinals and prelates. The coffin has been set on a stand. I don't want to call it a catafalque because Pope Francis specifically asked that the whole rite be simplified, no catafalque. So it's on a stand, about to be carried inside this beautiful, beautiful basilica.
And if I'm not mistaken, just before his interment, the coffin will be placed for a few moments with the Pope facing the icon of Mary Salus Populi Romani, so that he can say his final goodbye to the Mary to whom he has entrusted himself and the world to so many times.
It truly is a simple coffin. It has a very simple cross engraved in it, a tiny coat of arms, and the seal of the Holy See.
I think it's being shown to the crowd, who, as you can hear, have applauded, and it's our final goodbye now.
Yep.
Before it's taken in procession into the basilica.
We hear the bells tolling. The Swiss Guards leading the procession.
Always present for the Pope's protection in every moment.
We're hearing the Sistine Chapel Choir there accompany us as the coffin is being brought in procession into the basilica, going through the atrium now and now into the basilica to be brought before the icon of the Salus Populi Romani before being placed in the tomb that has been prepared. It's a simple tomb bearing only the inscription Franciscus and a reproduction of the late Pope's pectoral cross. There we're seeing the icon of Salus Populi Romani in the chapel that will be next to where Pope Francis will be laid to rest. There we see the coffin before the Pauline Chapel where the icon of Salus Populi Romani is found. And we have some children who are bringing a homage to the altar there, above which is the icon of Mary. Recalling the flowers Pope Francis would bring in homage when he would go there to pray before an apostolic journey or to give thanks or to for special prayers in his many visits there.
I think these must be roses that people have brought, because they were single roses, white roses on long stems, and people probably brought those to lay on his coffin or close to him.
I think there was a group of people holding them outside the basilica when the coffin was being brought up. And now he's
as you said, he is saluting Our Lady
and thanking her, I'm sure. And
now he's being taken close to the altar of St. Francis. The tomb is located just near there. And it will be taken to the niche of a side nave between, again, the Pauline Chapel and the altar of St. Francis. The private celebration is now underway in the Basilica, and as it is private at this moment, we're going to conclude our broadcast here, and we'd like to thank you all for joining us and all of us paying tribute to our dear Pope Francis. That is Joan signing off here.
Yes, we do conclude this live broadcast here. Of course, please visit the Vatican News website, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube accounts for coverage of all of these events. Thank you so much, Thaddeus and Francesca, for bringing your witness and your voice. And thank you also to our technicians, our audio coordinator, and to all our media partners, TV and radio, who have made this broadcast possible, and to all of you for joining in. Laudetur Jesus Christus. Praised be to Jesus Christ.
your newest source of news and information on cable and free TV, online,
On Trade Talk, joining us this morning.
on mobile.
Simulan na natin ang agenda.
This is BNC. We are everywhere.
Today, the world mourns. He walked with us through storms, through pain, through prayer. He reminded us that mercy is greater than judgment. You are home now, Holy Father, and your spirit will live on in every Filipino heart. Salamat, Pope Francis.
education is a basic human right. Yet for many, it still feels like a privilege reserved for the few.
I feel like if wala sila, it's gonna be really impossible for me to finish school. We're not that financially capable of sending me to schools.
For those who walk a harder road, it remains a distant dream, one they fight for every day.
Sobrang laking tulong po niya sa akin. I really don't think that I would survive my entire college life if not for this scholarship.
How does one rise above it?
DBP considers education as an important advocacy. We have started providing these scholarships in 2008.
We'll share real stories of resilience overcoming adversities experienced by the scholars of the Development Bank of the Philippines. Catch Pay It Forward on April 28 at 8:30 p.m. only here on Milyonaryo News Channel.
Up next on Milyonaryo News Channel.